we were trying to do something and it wasn't working, and we were both like, it was hilarious. Like, we were like,
I forgot about it. I was like, what is she talking?
Oh.
That was a bad idea.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
How to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, sign up for more support with meeting your needs with your weekly Universal Needs notes at theuniversalneeds.com.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
Something really weird happened then. I went to hit record, and we have this software that that facilitates this recording and everything. And we have a screen set up so that we're side by side. And I hit record, and all of a sudden the screen jumped and we were on top of each other. I'm like, what's happened? Like, everything moved. And I'm like, I'm trying to get myself ready to introduce the podcast episode. It's okay. We're side by side again now. All is well with the world. And my brain's not going, what is happening? Why is she on top of me? So today we're going to talk about something that very much links to a kind of real world example of the interaction dynamics that we talked about, the shapes episodes that we did several episodes ago. If you have not listened to them, strongly recommend listening to those before you listen to this episode. We'll put the link in the show notes, because I do think that, or the links plural in the show notes, because I do think it will give important context. And it may just be that you listen to this, and then the second we start talking about one of the positions or one of the shapes, that you then go back and listen to the episode about that, so you understand what we're talking about a little bit more, because we won't have time to go into all of the depth of each of the positions that we're going to be talking about, because I got a feeling there's a few of them that's going to come up today. So this all came about because we were chatting about a situation that happened on a trip that Serena did recently. You want to kind of tell the story, and we can then sort of take it from there?
Yeah, so I just got back from a 2-week trip up to Acadia National Park, beautiful national park. Love being out in nature and just kind of getting away from the things. It's interesting now living in an RV, like our home just goes with us most places. So vacationing has become much different. And I think this is the first time that we've actually like been in a position where we're mostly settled, and it's like, oh, this is a vacation, but like I come home every day, like to my home and my things. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was great. We planned the trip because we were able to have enough time to do the things without getting stressed out. And one of the things in a national park is hiking. Now, my husband and I love hiking. We both like being in nature and just kind of getting out and away. It's really nice when you can get away from people. Not always possible in a national park during the summer, because there are a lot of people trying to experience the same thing. And
it's kind of ironic. Everyone goes to experience the nature away from people, and all the people end up in nature surrounded by people trying to experience nature without people.
Yeah, it was in this, I hadn't really thought of it. This instance specifically was very much like the quintessential, like, tourist at a national park type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this hike we both wanted to do. Now, my husband is definitely more of an avid hiker. He hiked the Appalachian Trail for a month, mostly barefoot. Like, he really likes kind of getting into the hike, and that experience changed how he approaches hiking. Now, since he went on that trip, we have not really done much hiking together. Like, and I don't mean like walking through the woods hike. I mean like hiking. Like,
Yeah, it's funny. Everyone has different views of what hiking is. Like, I remember I once dated somebody who was like, let's go for a hike. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm down for that. And I'm thinking like a nice walk through the nature. This was not a nice walk, like hours later and like elevation gains later. Like, oh, this is not what I thought I was going to be signing up for here. So yeah, different people have got very different viewpoints on hiking.
Right. Like if we're walking through the woods on a made trail, like whether it's, you know, just like a area that's carved out, or sometimes, you know, you get like boardwalk trails, whatever. Like there's no real kind of mental, physical challenge about, like, you know, in itself there is a challenge. However, it's not what we usually do. Now, this is the first time we kind of came together when we were in a situation where we were going to be like hiking. And Joe took a day and he did some hikes that he was like, I'm going to check these out and, you know, just kind of scratch the itch I have. I haven't done real hiking because if you know the topography of Florida, like there aren't even hills, never mind fucking mountains. So he does this. He's like, yeah, that scratched the itch. I'm like, oh, cool. And, you know, we had a hike planned for sunrise the next morning or a couple mornings later, and that went okay. We'll talk about that in a later episode, I am sure. But then there was one day we were both excited for this one hike, and it was kind of towards the end of our trip, so we're both in, you know, those kind of end of vacation spaces that people tend to get into. And we started out on this hike and it just kind of felt like, I don't know, off from the beginning a little bit. And this hike, it's called the Beehive, and it's literally straight up the mountain, the route that we decided to take. Like you're climbing like rung ladders up the side of a cliff to get to the peak of the summit of this mountain. And so we start and it's a little peoply, and then we get up to the point where you kind of start really climbing, and we're standing in line, which does not help anything because, as you said, trying to get into nature to get away from all the things, and we're standing in line to climb up a mountain. So the tension,
I didn't
was
come
already
to a theme park. There's a reason I don't do theme parks.
right. Like I felt like I was in a stanchion queue, but like literally like plastered Mission Impossible style to the side of a fucking cliff. So there were a couple of elements that were already like, okay, you know, we're standing in the sun waiting to climb up this mountain and all the things. And we get to the top and it felt crunchy. Like that's the word that my husband and I like to use. Like things, it just didn't feel like there was just something. It's like, this doesn't feel good. And I got into this like desperate, it felt like desperation. And at the time it didn't. So actually I'm going to pause that and go back. I wanted to switch the mood. I was like, no, I'm going to create something. I'm going to create connection because, you know, we're doing this together and we just got to the summit and like, look at us go. So let's, you know, we're going to embrace this moment. And it wasn't working. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, you've got to be like, I'm trying here. Like, why aren't you connecting? Why aren't you like following
Working
along with
me,
this?
right?
Yeah. And in retrospect, I'm thinking of like, as I'm saying, and I'm like, yeah, well, okay, Serena, like, so
there might be some reasons for this.
there could potentially be some reasons. And in the moment I was so in it, and it's like, you know, we're on this amazing vacation. We're at the summit of a mountain. We're looking over, you know, the coastline of Maine. Like everything should be perfect. And we're both like, like, and it, as Claire will point out later, like this is bound to happen given how it all played out. Like
given what I know now, this was inevitable. But it kind of breaks my heart that the things didn't happen to avoid this, because it also could have been easily avoided as well.
Absolutely. So after everything was kind of crunchy, it was like, you know, I'm just going to take some time. I'm going to reflect, you know, I'm going to, you know, see what went on. And I was like, you know, I was desperately trying to create connection there. And they started getting a little pissy, like, you know, I'm trying. And he was just off in his own, doing his own thing. And I was like, being desperate to create something. I was like, well, that doesn't sound fucking empowering. And I'm like, oh shit. Oh, I was using the word create because I was like, yes, I was trying to create something, but I was nowhere near the empowerment dynamic. And I look back and I was like, wow. Like, I mean, we're talking, this happened last week from recording. Like, we literally are students of this work. Like, I just sat back and I'm like, well, there's something to contemplate. And
well, shit.
Yeah. Well, shit, you should have seen this one coming. And in that, I was like, how often am I like desperate to create something and like tricking my mind into being like, no, I'm in creator mode, but am I trying to mask? Am I trying to avoid? What am I actually trying to do here? Creation could be the word I'm using. I could also use platypus, like, and it would make just about as much sense in there, I think, because like I'd still be accomplishing the nothingness that happened because of it. So like it was like a very weird situation because
dynamic now.
Huh?
I feel like I want to create the platypus dynamic now.
Platypus dynamic. When it just doesn't make sense. So
Right?
it really made me like,
I mean, we could use that a lot.
Right? Maybe that's the word platypus.
Right. Right. We're gonna get to that. Like that will make sense in a minute.
Inside jokes. So it really just had me reflecting, and it was like, you know, if my creation is determined by somebody else's participation, by their reaction, by their involvement in it, am I actually creating for myself? Am I creating from the right place? Am I creating at all? And all of these questions kind of came in, and I had a well shit moment for myself, and I'm like, if I had thought about this before, like there are so many different ways things could be handled. And there was one point that really kind of stood out to me. We had gotten down the mountain and it was okay. Like we weren't at each other's throats. We weren't miserable, but there was something lacking. There was something lacking, and then there was something there that we didn't want to be there. So the lacking was the outcome that we each had that was completely different from each other, but we didn't know because we hadn't communicated. And the input was this tension and crunchiness that were like, neither of us, we wanted to be like, yeah, it's the best day ever with the best hike ever with the best baby ever. Like, you know, like, and that just wasn't there. So it was like, well, let's create that. And we were walking down another path and there were a lot of people, so many people. And there was kind of like I thought I knew where we were going. And I was like, are we going down here? And he's like, I'm dealing with people right now. And I was like, I kind of look around and I am in the same clusterfuck of people. Yeah. I'm like, oh, there's no people here. What are you talking about?
I wish I knew what that was like.
Yeah. So I asked again, I was like, are we going this way? And for me, I'm like, this is a yes. Give me a fucking yes or no. Give it to me. Like, come on, this isn't hard. Now, if it had been reversed, I have been in that situation where my brain short circuits and all I can do is state the situation I'm in. And usually it's not even a complete sentence. It'd be like, people. And like, you just kind of freeze. But at that moment, I was so focused on all everything of the else. Things that, everything else. I wasn't considering that. And I just kind of was like, all right, fuck it, whatever. And I walked to where I thought we were going. And that was where we were going. And of course, that kind of put a little more prickle in the party there because I was just done. And I looked back on it, I was like, I could have created for myself at that point. Like, I didn't need his answer. I could have been like, okay, you know, I see you're having a challenging moment. You're dealing with people. I'm going to walk this way and you can come and meet me when you're done. It could have been handled so many other ways, but nope, I let the prickle into the party. And then it didn't help anything it didn't help anything, period. And then later on, we finally started to discuss what was going on. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And we realized after talking that there were two different outcomes of the hike that we wanted. And they just it's not that they weren't compatible with each other. It's just they were different. And without communication, instead of finding the way that kind of like joined them together and married them nicely.
I do actually think, like, knowing what the outcomes were and the conditions that were required to create those outcomes, I do actually think they were incompatible. I think there was a way you could have found a middle ground that could have worked for both of you. But I think that the outcomes you both had were completely incompatible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's right. She's right. We could have made it work, and we could have made it work in a way that would have been enjoyable. It would have been neither of our ultimate preferences. And the difference is I don't hike as much as my husband. I do love hiking. I like challenging, like I like scrambling. I like climbing up the side of a mountain more than I like, switchbacking on a trail. However, it's not something that I really want to do on my own. Like I like to, share the celebration of, like, there was a couple of times I'm trying to get up these rungs and short little me is like, okay, like I don't know how I'm going to get up this wall, but there is no down. Like down was not an option. You had to go up, and I'm like, all right, there's like a 5-year-old doing that. And there were some, but like if they can figure out their footing to get up these bars, like fun size me can figure it out too. So for me, hiking in that manner is I would say like a group, a group endeavor, but I like to have somebody with me. Now, Joe, who had, hiked the Appalachian Trail
and before you go into Joe, I also think not only is that the case for you in terms of how you hike, but the whole point for you of this trip was to connect and spend time together. Like that was what you wanted out of doing this. So I think that there's how you hike is one thing, and there's what you wanted out of it that also adds to that.
And abilities, like he's definitely more of an avid hiker. He's, I'm shapes. I don't know if it's in shape, but I'm shapes. And like, I feel healthy, but to not hike for years, like the last time I hiked was like 3 years ago, like an actual like hike up the side of a mountain. And I just jump on I'm like, oh yeah, I can do this. I can. And fuck. Like, it was challenging.
It's not going to be as easy as it might have been if I was more experienced with this recently.
Right. Or taller to make it easier to, propel myself up the mountain and all of these things.
Oh, honey, I'm taller. There's no way it would have been easy for me either. I would have been like, I would have been like, I don't care if there's not a down. Find a fucking down. Like, we're going to make a down happen for me. So I totally get it. Like I'm taller. I don't think that would have helped me at all in this scenario.
You would have at least been able to reach the rungs. There was a couple of times where I had like my foot up by my ear, and I'm like, now I get to hoist the rest of my body up with me. Like, it was probably pretty comical, and there was an audience, so I'm sure some people got some giggles out of it. Now, Joe's having been in solitude hiking and hiking the Appalachian Trail on his own, there is a mindset, and it's hike your own hike. Like, you're out there for you. You're out there to like connect with yourself and to connect with nature. And it's great when you meet up with Tramley and you have these people that you end up hiking with because you're all hiking in the same direction, but it's not about them. Like, I remember when he came back, he'd tell me about so many instances of relationships that end on the Appalachian Trail because two people go hiking together, and the chances of being even two avid hikers who do it all the time, being in the space to hike their own hike and do it together, like,
well, wait, your pace is going to be the same, your capacity is going to be the same, like your what you're wanting out of that day is going to be the same, like
your resources, your energy, all of the
because we're all going to be at a different point where different needs are seeking to be met at different times, and we may have different levels of resource in terms of how well our needs are met or not met. That could have something to do with it. Just saying.
Do you think?
Just saying.
So Joe's on this hike, and he's normally fine, like with, you know, like when we're not doing like challenging hikes, it's like, okay, we're just kind of walking. But this was one that there was some challenge to it. And like, you know, there are areas where, you know, it probably would have been more fulfilling for him to just be off. And I'm in the background, like, you know, I'm realized like I'm not one of those people who has to fill the dead space with talking. Like I was in it to appreciate nature and all of that stuff as well. And I wanted that connection, and he just wanted to be kind of in it. And after we talked like a couple of days later, when everything was just, we were like, okay, let's come back to this. He's like, you know, I really have hike your own hike in my head. And it was more challenging than I thought to be on this kind of hike together, and to have somebody else that not only did I have to consider, I wanted to consider, and it changed my hike, because once there's somebody else in it, it's not my own hike, it's our hike or your hike that I'm following along with. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. And knowing that from the beginning, it probably wouldn't have changed the desire to want connection and to try to create those elements. However, it would have definitely put into perspective, okay, there's an outcome here. So I knew where he was at. Okay, this isn't about me. You just want to hike your own hike. You just want to be in nature. It's not,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. But my mind was already creating this dialogue that it's like, oh, it's this and it's this. And then like I'm getting salty in my own brain. And I'm like, nope, don't be salty with him, because like we don't want to make the crunchiness like stabby. So like so many things were going on with this. But I came to Claire and I was like, you know, I felt like I was desperately trying to create something. And then I realized I wasn't creating anything except for problems. And then now I'm in the fucking drama triangle, and I'm supposed to be in the empowerment ecosystem and all of these things. And, you know, I tell her the story and she's like, oh, yeah. Like, you could have told me the conclusion of the story before I even really started, just because, like, in retrospect...
There's so many things. There's so many things about this. Like it was like initially Serena was like, well, it's just like, can I create if my creation is dependent on somebody else? And how do you create when somebody else isn't in the same space? I'm like, oh, honey, there's so much more to this than just that. I mean, yes, we will get to those questions. We will answer those questions. But like, there was so much before that. Like, so like, let's go back a little bit to kind of the earlier on in the story. And when Serena was like saying, like, she was realizing that she was desperate to create. Well, desperate to create, I mean, and I want to say, like, the fact that you can acknowledge like half the stuff that you did before we even had a conversation, I mean, that shows how far along you are with this work. Because one of the things that I think is so problematic with so many people is the second they get language for something that they're supposed to be doing, they end up using that language to try to convince themselves that's what they're doing, and they're not. Like, I can't tell you the number of people. Self-care. People who use therapeutic language and they're like, oh, don't gaslight me. And it's like, that's not what gaslighting is. Like, you know, like you're gaslighting in the fact that you're saying don't gaslight. Like that is like, stop. Like there's so many.
It's like buzzwords.
Buzzwords, like they're like jargon terms, if you like, or terminology that has a very specific meaning. And because they want to convince themselves that they're doing that thing, or they're trying to convince themselves that this is what's happening, or it actually meets their needs if this would be happening. And so they want it to be happening. So they try to say, well, I'm using the word, so that means it's happening. Right? And it's like, no, that's not how it works.
That sounds more like manipulation than creation.
Right, exactly. And I think that this is the thing. And I tell you something, one of the places I've seen it for years, needs. Meeting your needs. How many people I'm meeting my needs? Are you fuck? Like, I'm sorry. Like, in the nicest possible way. I wouldn't say that to a client, but the amount of people I meet just out in the wild where we have conversations about things like, oh yeah, I'm really good at meeting my needs. Like, if you were really good at meeting your needs, you wouldn't be behaving the way that you are right now. And that's not a criticism. It's because people don't necessarily understand the terminology that well, or they're so desperate for it to be true because there's a subconscious part of them going, well, if we're meeting our needs, we'll be okay. So let's convince ourselves we're meeting our needs because then we'll be okay, right? And it's like, no, you got to own where you're at and where you're not, because that's the only way you get to where you want to be, is by acknowledging where you are. So the fact that you were like realizing later, oh, maybe I wasn't in creator mode. Like, I might have been using that word, but maybe that wasn't creator approach. Well, I mean, the very fact that you described it as desperation, what's the core emotion of the empowerment ecosystem? Desire or want. That's not desperation. Desperation, that's on the anxiety axis. Desperation is the emotion that is driving the drama triangle. So if we are feeling desperation, we're not in the empowerment ecosystem to begin with. Just to start there.
We're not even close enough to step into it at that point. I don't think we even
see the drama triangle, the empowerment ecosystem at this point.
Maybe it was the altitudes, but I was delusional on that mountain.
Like hallucinating empowerment ecosystems.
You know what? I was human. I was fucking human on that mountain, and I went back to my conditioning, and for a moment, like, and that's like, this lifestyle needs is a conscious effort that becomes subconscious after a while, but we can still slip back in and out of these patterns that we have been conditioned and have been ingrained into us.
Yes.
And most of the time most people are in that triangle or skirting the edges of it. And it takes a real, like, mindfulness to move from there into, like Claire said, acknowledge, like, oh, I'm not, like, the grass isn't green. I am in solid red territory right now, and be like, okay, now how do I move over here? How do I get in the empowerment dynamic?
Right. Well, and what does desperation tell you? If you're feeling desperation from a needs perspective, what's that telling you?
My needs are unmet.
Ding, 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 ding. If your needs are unmet, which triangle are you in?
Red one.
The drama triangle. And so here's the thing.
Oh,
the very fact. Yeah.
I forgot we're not always using color. We have so many different, like, the drama triangle is the red triangle.
We know what the red one is, but not necessarily the people listening may not know what the red one is. So we're talking about the drama triangle. And so here's the thing. So if you're trying to create from a place of desperation, for a start, a lot of the time that I'm trying to create as a way of avoiding feeling my unmet needs and acknowledging my unmet needs and identifying my unmet needs in order that I can then create in order to meet those needs. So when we start to use creation as an avoidance strategy, because it's like, and I get it, like, if you're on vacation, like, vacations are supposed to be fun and enjoyable and blah, blah, blah. And if they're not, like, I mean, if you're on the side of a mountain, I can't imagine you going, oh God, I just need to feel how I feel about this thing right now. And I got to process the fact that my needs are unmet. And then I got to identify. I mean, you can actually do this really quickly. It is possible to do this on the side of a mountain. But if you're having a moment, you're having a human moment, like it's where it's like, I don't want to do all of that right now. I just want to be having fun. It's my vacation, for fuck's sake. Like, damn it, I'm having fun. Aren't you? Like, something like that's kind of what I feel around this time. Damn it. Like, that's what I can feel around this. And it's like, I'm desperate for this to be having fun. And because I then try to force it into fun, it's like, it makes it even less fun for everybody involved. So like, that's like the first thing is like to notice, like, where we're trying to use even the things that we know about needs as a way of trying to avoid the fact that things aren't great in that moment, or a way of trying to force our needs to be met because we want them to be met, rather than doing it in a way which is actually like, because the truth of the matter was, you were feeling some feels at that point in time, and you didn't want to be feeling the feels, and you wanted to feel the fun to avoid the feelings that you were having, as opposed to just addressing the feelings that you were having and then moving on. Like, this reminds me so much of, like, we've talked about it in the past, the tears on the sidewalk moment. We were having a fantastic day, huge, like, we'd done so many things, it was so much fun, and then something happened, and we both of us, like, there was a real temptation to just be like, no, this is a fun day, damn it, we're going to keep having fun. But that thing was there, and if we hadn't addressed the thing that was there, the rest of the day would have felt like shit. I'm just going to be honest. It would have felt crappy.
You mean like getting up the mountain, feeling crunchy, crunching down the mountain, then crunching to the next hike, then crunching home. Like, it just stayed crunchy until we addressed it.
That part. And so you could have had tears on the side of a mountain, and that wasn't ideal. Like, the tears on the sidewalk wasn't ideal. Neither of us were like, well, this is going to be a fun thing to do. Let's do this now. Like, no, that wasn't part of the plan.
And now on the schedule, crying.
Like, you imagine a cruise director having like an emotional like this is the place, if you wish to have a cry, please go to the Lido deck. If you wish to have a party, come to, no, that's not how this works. And because we took that, whatever it was, like 20 minutes to have the tears and have the conversation, I mean, we had some of the funniest moments post tears on the sidewalk. Like, some of them, like, there is a very specific memory I have of something we were trying to do, and I'm not going to share about it because that is something only the two of us know about. But we were trying to do something and it wasn't working, and we were both like, it was hilarious. Like, we were like,
I forgot about it. I was like, what did she talk? Oh. That was a bad idea.
And it wasn't illegal. I'm just like, just kind of like, everything we were doing was legal, but we were doing something that was ill-advised in the moment. And it was like, but we were laughing so much the whole time we were trying to do it. So funny. Anyway, but we wouldn't have had that moment had we not had the tears on the sidewalk moment. So it's like, if you're trying, and we've always said, you can't create to avoid that which is in front of your face. Like, if your needs are going, hey, there's this thing that needs to be addressed, creating anything other than addressing the thing that's in front of your face is an avoidance strategy for the thing that's in front of your face, which means you're not creating, which means you're in the drama triangle. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I don't even know how many things there are, but we'll get to them eventually, I'm sure. So the second thing is that there is often a real misunderstanding especially in intimate relationships, but it can be in friendships and family relationships as well, that just because you are in the same space, that means you are spending time together. And the truth of the matter is that a lot of the time, because we don't feel like we spend enough time together, we try to go, oh, well, there's this thing that we're going to do. Why don't we do that together? And that can serve as our together time as well as our doing the thing time, even though doing the thing doesn't actually support togetherness. And so what ends up happening is that we go, oh, before we do this thing, we don't have the conversation that says, okay, is this something we're doing together, or are we doing parallel play? Now, if you don't know what parallel play is, it's a concept with children where they are each playing with their own things, doing their own stuff, but they're doing it in the same space. So they're not playing together, they're not playing with each other, but they are playing side by side, i.e. parallel. And we don't think about parallel play when it comes to adult relationships, which is a real missed opportunity, because parallel play, like, sometimes just having company around, like, you don't feel like you're alone doing it, but you don't also have to be interacting. You don't have to be doing things together. You don't have to be figuring things out. You don't have to be communicating. You can just be doing your own thing while somebody else is doing your own thing next to you. But you're doing it in a way where you still feel a sense of connection and community, but that connection takes a different form because it's just, we're not alone, as opposed to we are actively connecting in that moment.
It's ironic because the parallel play thing came up when Claire and I were talking about this previously, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And that's usually something Joe and I are very good at. Like, we don't have to be doing the things together to be together in the situation. Like, karaoke is a great example of this. And like any of like our friends, Joe does his Joe thing, like, and I do my thing. Yes, and usually they're two totally different things, and he's fine. Like, he just wants to be in it, and he like I'll be up on stage,
he wants to be around it rather than in it.
Yeah, and he just does his own thing, and I do my own thing, and we come out and we're like, oh, that was a fun night. And it's like, I'm glad you were here, and I'm glad I got to see you do your thing, and all of those things. So it's like, it's interesting because when Claire said, I'm like, oh, we're really good at that. And there was, with this specific situation, like, we know when Joe and I know when we walk into a karaoke bar, we're probably parting ways.
Right.
Not for any reason except we're doing our own thing and making our
And by
own
that,
fun.
Serena means that Serena's probably going to be talking to people at the bar or up singing karaoke, and Joe's going to be sat in the corner just chilling and observing. Like, it's not like they're it's not like, oh, Joe's going home and Serena's doing karaoke. They go into the bar together. They're both in the bar together. They're just doing very different activities while in the bar.
And coming out feeling like we did it together, but at the same time, like, our experiences are nowhere near the same in there. And with this, I'm like, with the whole parallel play concept, I was like, had we just had a conversation before, and it's like, why should we have a conversation? We're going on a hike. Isn't that the conversation? But like, thinking, it's like, okay, we knew we were in two different spaces. We know Joe's hiking experience is now significantly different than mine in many ways. Like, if we had taken a moment to be like, oh, like,
and more importantly, you both had very different things that you were trying to get out of the hike, and you both had very different needs you were trying to meet through hiking. And I think that this is where the whole kind of desperately trying to create thing came from, was because one of the things that you were trying to create was connection with Joe. Like, that was the thing. It wasn't just connection, it was connection with Joe. Joe was wanting to connect with himself and with nature, which is actually quite an isolating thing to do in the context of other people. And so what ends up and it's not about the activity. It's like, just because it's a mundane activity doesn't mean to say a conversation wouldn't be helpful. It's helpful if you believe there is a possibility that you might be trying to meet different needs through doing this thing together. Because if you're trying to, like, I could imagine the same sort of thing could happen like at a karaoke bar with Serena and I, because there are times I go to a karaoke bar to express my emotions, and all I want to do is sing. I'm not there to talk, I'm not there to socialize, I'm just there to sing. When I want to do that, I go to a karaoke bar by myself. I don't tend to go with other people. I'll go and I'll hang by myself, I'll sit at the bar, or I'll sit on a stool somewhere, and I will just put in song after song after song, and I'll just be in my space. Now, Serena and I, normally when we go to a karaoke bar together, we're there to have fun together, and we will tend to chat at the bar, and we'll put in multiple songs together, and when we're on stage, we're still connecting and communicating while we're singing on stage together. Like, there's times where, like, I can see like the nod from Serena. I'm like, oh, we need to change the lyrics to this because we did it this way, and now we're doing it this way. Like, we're in it together in that moment. Those are two very different experiences of the same activity. And so if I'm like, I'm feeling some feels right now and I want to go to karaoke because I want to get this out of my system, I probably wouldn't say to Serena, hey, you want to go to karaoke tonight? Because she's going to be like, oh, fuck yeah. And she's going to have an expectation of what that means based on how we normally do it. And I think that's also what's happened, is that how you normally do hiking with Joe, based on how you used to do hiking, is very different to where he's at now with respect to what hiking means to him and the needs it's trying to meet for him. And so I think that's the thing, is like, where you said it already, like where you were like desperately trying to create something, you were trying to meet needs. So it's really important to identify what needs are you trying to meet, because if you're trying to meet your connection need, but you need him to interact in order to do that, we already know that's a red spectrum way of doing things, that the chances are you're going to be, and what would have ended up happening was that there was, and this is what subconsciously was happening. I don't believe that Serena was like, let me figure this out and get Joe into my little lair kind of thing. I don't believe there was any intention behind this. But what ended up happening was, like, Serena decided, I'm going to create this thing, and Joe's coming along for the ride, and I'm going to try and do what I can to get Joe to come along for the ride, even though Joe's like, fuck off with your ride. I'm happy over here. Thank you very much. I don't want no part of your ride right now. And so it ends up where inadvertently and unintentionally you end up getting into kind of a manipulative space, not because you intend to manipulate, but because your belief is also that Joe is also there to connect, and therefore you're thinking, I'm creating something that's going to work for both of us, but he's wanting something totally different at that moment in time. And so you're like, hey, come on, let's create, and this is this thing, and it's what we wanted out of this. And Joe's like, nah, I don't want that. Like, who said I wanted that? That was never part of the conversation. And so it's really important to get clear, both prior to doing things, like, what needs am I trying to get met through doing this? And like, what is my outcome here? But also in those moments where you feel that crunchiness, what needs am I trying to meet here? How am I trying to get those needs met? And am I trying to get them met in a way that's actually probably going to create a cluster for myself and everybody else in this space? Or is there another way I could meet this need? Because the thing about it is like, if you wanted to meet basically you were trying to meet your love need in that moment by connecting with Joe. If you'd had the conversation where Joe's actually not wanting that you're not on the same page with that, is it, you could have still found a way of meeting your love need through doing the hike. And then you could have found a way to connect with Joe, not because it was meeting your needs, but because it was meeting the relationship's needs later in a way that worked for both of you. Because connection's part of your relationship's needs as well. And you both have to take care of that. But the problem is that when our needs are like screaming at us and go, no, but I need this. Relationship needs what? Relationship needs. Relationship doesn't have needs to say, no, this is what's important right now, right?
Well, it's interesting because had we filmed our previous episode and, you know, we turned back time and, you know, you had your revelation weeks ago instead of a couple of days ago. In that moment, I could have created that connection for myself without him, but still with him by just focusing on just one small thing. And it's like, we're on this mountain together, and that's pretty spectacular that we both get to, you know, we get to share this view, or like, you know, there were so many ways for me to connect that had no bearing on his response. I had like to just be in the moment with myself and have him present for it.
Yes.
Like maybe it wouldn't have looked like, I don't even know what I was looking for in the form of connection. And right there, that says, I didn't even know. I just, I wanted it.
I just know that I know that this isn't it. Whatever it is, yes. It's not this.
I want this word, and I want it to feel a certain way, and I couldn't tell you how it's supposed to feel or how it's supposed to look, but
and I can't tell you what the word is, but
like
but
it's just,
could you do this, please? Yeah,
it was kind of matter of fact in my head and in my being, and now I'm like, oh, there's just like that could have been so much easier and not crunchy and not dependent on anything else, like or not anything, but dependent on somebody else. And I really like took aback from that situation being like, oh, that masking and avoidance. And it's like, you know, I'm going to get into the habit, hopefully, of asking myself in these situations, especially like, why am I trying to create? Not just what am I trying to create, but why am I trying to create? Because in that situation, if I had asked myself that question, whether or not I would have acknowledged it, my mind definitely would have answered that question, you know, with to not feel like this, to not be in this situation where it felt crunchy, to like, I wanted to shift it. And I like, there's a difference between creating and shifting. Like,
well, shifting implies you're normally it's like you're shifting. Well, I guess I think it's also, if you're shifting towards, that's one thing, but you were trying to shift away. And if you're trying to shift away, it's because of what you don't want. If you're shifting towards, it's because you're moving towards what you do want. But again, you can't move towards what you do want unless you deal with the thing that's right in front of your face. Because the second you make a forward motion in terms of to the direction of what you want, you're going to smack your face into it. So you might as well deal with it and get it out of the way. It's far more pleasant.
And it's interesting because as you're saying that, I'm like, well, there could have been a point where he was like, fuck it, like, Joe's a student of this work too, so he knows more things than the average person when it comes to needs. He could have been like, all right, I'm just gonna get, you know, I'm gonna mask, I'm gonna avoid, and I know what to do, what to say to get through this to make it okay-ish. And had we sidestep, like if you're on the camera, you're seeing what I'm doing, but like if we have like a big issue and you sidestep around the issue, I guarantee that thing is gonna come out of the bushes somewhere on a sneak attack and be like, I'm back. Yeah, like it's not gonna go away. And I think that's the thing. It's like, if I can just get through this, then the rest of the day will be glorious and we'll just forget that there was ever a crunchiness. No, you fucking won't. You may not talk about it, but you're gonna know it's there, and if it isn't dealt with, it is coming back. Yes.
And a lot of the time it's like you're carrying it. It's not even going to come back to you. You're taking it with you. It's like, oh, I put it on it's in my backpack and that's behind me. And as long as I keep walking forward, I'll come away from it, right? No, you're bringing that thing with you. It's coming. It's literally attached to you. And every step you take, it's moving that same step with you. And I think that that's the thing is like, because Serena's asked me at one point, she was like, oh, does that mean like you really shouldn't like co-create because the chances of like other people's needs being in exact alignment with what you need at the same time? And I was like, actually, I have a very different view on this, which is that I think co-creation is amazing. And I think it would be really helpful if more people did it. I think that the challenge is you can only co-create if both people are actually actively co-creating. You don't have to be creating the same outcome, but you can co-create together. The issue is you can't co-create and you can't create enough to make up for the fact that somebody else is not creating with you. That's not co-creation. That doesn't make it co-creation. And like, for example, like, and Serena and I, we co-create all the time. Not because we've got exactly the same outcome, not because we're trying to meet the same needs, but because we're focused on creating something that works well for both of us. So like, for example, if we were going to go out for an evening and I had one desire of things to happen and Serena had another desire of things to happen, the overarching outcome is us spending time together. Like that's the whole point of us going out together, is for us to spend some time together. And then what we could do is like underneath that, we can then go, okay, what could we create that here's your ideal, here's my ideal, that meets in the middle, that creates enough of this overlap between what your ideal and my ideal is, that we both are happy because we are still getting something while meeting our overall outcome of spending time together. And I think that co-creation in that respect, like we don't have to want exactly the same things. We don't have to have the same capacity. We don't have to be like in the same space. We don't have to be focusing on the same needs or outcomes. We just have to commit to co-creating something that works best as well as it can for both people. And I think that that's one of the ways that co-creation can work. The thing about creation, though, is that if your creation is dependent on how somebody else reacts, it's not really creating. Because by creating, remember, if you go back to the episode where we talk about this, creator approach is all about what can I do myself? Like, what is it that I want? What am I feeling desire for? And what are the steps that I can do towards creating that? If our outcome is dependent on somebody else's reaction, we can't control that. That's not something that we can define. We can't ever, like, we've all been there. We've been around a friend that you cannot, I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase this. If somebody is committed to being in a certain emotional space, you can do anything. You could dance in circles. You could hold space for them to share. You could offer them a space to help them to create more of something. You could turn yourself upside down and inside up. If somebody's committed to being in a certain emotional space, there ain't nothing you can do about it. Like, and so if your outcome is dependent on how they show up, then you are not able to create that for yourself. And that's the thing, is that what we want to do when we're in creation, in the creator approach, is we want to be focused on the things that we can create. What can I do to create more of this outcome? And if we, and like going back to it from a needs perspective, we know if a meeting of our need is dependent on somebody else, that it is a less empowered way of meeting our needs. Because what ends up happening is that we make somebody else responsible for the meeting of our needs. We basically say this person has the power to determine whether or not our needs are met, which means that we are not empowered in that moment because we've given that power away to them. What we then end up doing is we end up becoming a victim of them, and they end up becoming persecutor approach, because the victim approach is like, I need you to behave this certain way, and if you're not behaving this certain way, then, and them not behaving that certain way, we perceive as persecutor approach because we're in victim approach and we're making them responsible for it. And so the best way to step out of this is to go, what can I create that is within my ability to create for myself, that moves me more in the direction of that which I want to move.
So I'm kind of like imagining the empowerment dynamic, and in this situation, like there's the two outcomes really they weren't compatible in the grand sense of things.
Right.
However, had we had this conversation before, it could have been like, all right, you do your hike, I'll meet you at the top of the mountain, and then once we both get to the summit, we'll have, you know, a moment up there, and, you know, we can have snacks or something, and then you know, you can hike down, and like there would have been ways to create something that would have been mutual,
isolation and moments of your connection together,
that would have made the experience so much more fulfilling for both of us and eliminated most of, if not all of, that crunchiness. But as I'm thinking about it, it's like when you step into this co-creation and the empowerment approach, like that co-creation is like, if I'm in creator mode, or Joe's in creator mode, and he has this idea and he's like, oh, you know, what if I hike the mountain? You kind of move into that supporter role and that contributor role, and you kind of move like the same way we move around the drama triangle. In co-creation, you're moving around that the empowerment dynamic. So it may not be the result that's the ideal in either of your heads, but through moving through creator, contributor, supporter, you're able to come up with this co-creation. And I think that's part of it. It's really utilizing all those positions to ensure that you're both in the same approach dynamic, first of all, because it doesn't work if he's in creator and I'm over here in, you know, the drama triangle in my little victim seat being like, well, he thinks his grass is greener. Like, that's just,
probably, you know, like he's in the green shape.
But the second that like, if I was to frame it differently and come from a place of true creation, it's like, all right, well, he wants to get some solitude. It's like, I can help support him in that, and I can contribute in that in a way that's self first. It's not going to negatively impact me, and it might positively impact him, which, like, we're trying to be self first. We're trying to be in that empowerment approach. Like,
yeah, I think that the thing that's important within this is for you to be really clear on what your outcome is as co-creators, what the joint outcome is. And I think in this situation, your joint outcome was for you to both enjoy the experience and to do it together. Like, those were the two things that were the outcomes. Now, his ideal of what that looked like would have been probably a lot of like, I'm in my space, you're in your space, I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing, we're both enjoying it, and we're like, it's the parallel play thing, basically. And the we're doing it together is like, we're doing it in the same space and we're both going to enjoy it in the process. Your ideal would have been like, we're doing this together, we're communicating as we're doing it, we're finding these moments of connection where we're interacting with each other, and we are connecting and nourishing the connection in our relationship while we are doing this thing. And the key thing here is like what it's like, then it becomes like a conversation and a dialogue around, okay, how do I, like, what can I do that will help to create this joint outcome? What is it that the other person wants? How can I contribute to that? How can I support that? And then how can, like, this is why it's so important that both people are intentional and active within this space of co-creation. That's the reason Serena and I find it so easy, because the second I know what she wants and the second she knows what I want, we're both looking at how can we support the other person in getting the thing that they want, as opposed to just focusing on the thing that we alone want, because then it's not co-creation, that's creation. If you're doing it for yourself by yourself, it's co-creation if you're also looking at the other person. And the key thing is here is like looking at, okay, what can I give to the other person that will support the thing that they want without compromising myself and my needs, and vice versa. Because if you start looking at it, because I think a lot of people make a mistake with co-creation where they look at it and go, well, what can they give me that will help with what I'm doing? And it's like, you don't get to determine what they can give without compromising themselves. That's something only they can. Now you can make, like, you can ask questions like, would it be possible for you to do this? This is something that I would really appreciate. And like, I would like to do this. Like, is this something that would work for you? It's like a two-way flow of information to then figure out, okay, what is it that I can do? What is it that you can do? And how can we find a way of doing it that co-creates in a way that supports both of us and both of our outcomes? I feel that felt like we were going to say something then.
Yeah, I'm passing on that thought.
Okay. So one of the questions that I said that we would come back to, that Serena asked as like part of this, like post-mortem on what happened, if you like, was I was trying to think of a better term for that and I couldn't think of one. Like, what do you call it? Debrief. There we go. Debrief. That was the word. I knew there was one and I couldn't quite think about it.
It's true crimey. It's just
right?
different
it's perfect
term.
For Serena. Exactly. So one of the questions that came up was like, how do you create when the other person isn't in the same space as you? And I think that there's kind of two questions that kind of got meshed into one there, because I think that at the time you asked it initially, it was like, well, how do you co-create when the other person is in the same space as you? I.e., how do I get them to come along on this creation journey with me if they're not in the space to do so? The answer is you can't. Like, that is, they have to do it by choice. If they're not doing it by choice, then they're not actually in creative mode, because they're not coming from a place of desiring to create as part of it. How do you create?
I want to say you're not in creator mode either. You're in persecutor mode if you were trying to drag somebody along on something they do not want to be, a journey they do not want to be a part of.
You can make the offer of like, do you want to do you want to figure this out together? You want to co-create together? And if they're not in a space where that's something that they want, or they're not, like, it may be that it's something that they want to do, but they don't have the capacity to do it at that point in time. That's okay. And you'd be like, can't, I'm sorry, I don't have it in me right now. And that point, you then know, okay, in which case I need to be in creator mode as opposed to co-creator mode. Now, the question about how do you create when the other person is in the space of you, when you're in the same space, is remembering that the most important thing is to create in a self-first way. So that is, I'm going to create in a way which prioritizes my needs, at the minimum in ways that do not negatively impact the other person, and in ways that might benefit them. But the primary concern is what's supporting my needs in this moment. I'm not going to prioritize what they need over what I need. I'll do it the other way around. But if it happens to benefit them as well, awesome. That's a nice little bonus as we go through. And I think that like sometimes, and like the situation that Serena talked about with like the peoply situation where she was like trying to ask Joe, it was obvious in that moment that Joe was struggling. Like, he had some stuff going on with all the people that he was dealing with. If Serena had the capacity, she could have stepped into supporter mode and offered support in that moment and be like, okay, I can see you do, like, can I help in any way? Like, is there anything that would feel supportive to you? Like, and give him the opportunity. And now he might have gone straight into victim, and all these other people are the persecutors around him. He might have been in drama triangle, in which case you can make the offer that it's their choice to step into it. He might have said, actually, yes, it would be really helpful if like you could, if you could move to the side so that I can then move to the side and we can then get out of a space where we're dealing with all of these people, like that would be really helpful. There are ways that you could have been in that sort of supporter space that would have, like, I mean, I know that if like Serena and I, if I see Serena kind of teetering on the edge of the drama triangle, I might ask a couple of questions that are kind of supporter type questions. And that's her reminder to go, oh yeah, I can step into the create. Oh yes. Okay. I got it. I found my creative approach. Cool. Okay. Yes. Support would be great right now. Can we do this right now? And there's you can help support somebody in remembering the creator approach even exists at that point in time. Because sometimes it's like, I'm so overwhelmed. I can't see anything other than people right now. Creator what? Sorry. And sometimes it's like when somebody else does something to remind them of that, it's like, oh yeah. okay, so what's my outcome? What do I want right now? I want to be out of these people. My outcome is to get out of this as quickly as possible. What is the quickest? Because it may be that this direction is the direction we're going, but the quickest route to get out of the people is over here. So it may be that the outcome initially is get out of the people and then get to where we're going. So there's having these kind of conversations can make such a difference in these moments. But how do you create when the other person isn't in the same space as you? You realize and honor what your needs are and what their needs are, and you co-create and you have a conversation. So a great example of this was the vacation that I was just on. I had a day where I was at a theme park with a friend of mine, and I bought a ticket. This is probably the one time I was going to get to go to this theme park, probably in a year, maybe longer than that. So I wanted to make the most of being at this theme park. And although I was kind of tired because I'd spent a few days with my family, I was also more resourced than they were because they have some physical challenges that reduce their capacity for certain things. And so we got to a point during, I love that so many of my close people know to do this with me now. It was such a great moment when he was like, okay, so there was a particular ride at this particular theme park, which this person had said to me, you need to ride this at night because it's a different experience riding it at night. I'm like, okay. We got there at like 9:30 in the morning. So he was like, if we're going to do like night stuff here, I'm going to need a break during the day. And we were staying at a nearby hotel. So he was like, if that's the case, I'm probably going to duck out midway during the day, go have a nap, have a shower, freshen up. It's the tropics in the summer. It's fucking hot and it's sweaty and that's not always fun. So I'm going to go do that and then I'm going to come back. And I was like, I love that. I love that. Even though I'm here and I'm wanting to do all these things, this person is still telling me, here's what I need and here's what I'm going to do. And he said to me, do you want to come with me or do you want to stay? And I was like trying to decide because I was kind of tired as well, but I was like, I don't get to do this very often. And I took the time to have a think about it and marinate on it. I was like, you know, what's going to meet my needs more in this moment is to stay and enjoy. So that's what I did. And they went off and had their little nap and they came back. And I then went off and I rode like one of the roller coasters like 4 or 5 times. And I had a lot of fun. And I went and got myself a vegan chocolate sundae and I went and did all the things that also there were a bunch of rides that he can't do because of his physical conditions. So I went and did a bunch of the rides that he can't do because I'm going to do it while he's not here. That's a better use of the time so that when he is here, we can spend more time doing the things that we can do together and we both want to do. So he came back in early evening. We did a few of the things that we wanted to do together. And then we were having a conversation about like how we were going to manage doing the things. And he realized, he was like, well, if you're going to do this ride and then we're going to go back, why don't I just go back now? Like, I'm kind of tired. I'm like, okay, sure. And so they went back again. And I was like, I went and did this ride. And then I ended up watching the parade, like, which just happened to be timing wise, it worked out perfectly. I watched the parade, which was one of the shortest parades I've ever seen, but that's beside the point. I'm really glad I didn't like put a lot of effort into taking time to watch the parade because it was shorter than I remember, or than I imagined it was going to be, but it was fun. Like, and I was there until like 11:30 at night. And that was like how you create when the other person isn't in the same space. He wasn't in the same space as me. He wasn't in the, yay, let's go do all the things at the theme park space that I was. He's also about to move where he's going to be 30 minutes away. He's got an annual pass to this place. He can go anytime he wants. So he was fine with me doing like, and he was like, you do what you want to do. Don't worry about me. But we were both, the key thing there was and it was funny because he's like, I don't care, and he didn't care if he just came in and like hung out and like I went and did all these different rides and then just came back to him in between. He was fine with that, but part of my outcome was for us to spend time together. So I'm like, so what I did was I was like, I figured out what met my needs. And I also looked for where were the opportunities for us to spend time together within the context of what he could do and his capacity and where he was at. And then when he maxed out on capacity, he's like, deuces, I'm out, see you later. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to go do the other things. And it could have very easily looked like we were both just running. We could have looked like we were both just walking our own trail, but we weren't, because we were communicating about it and we were trying to figure out what was going to support. Each of us were creating with our own thing, but with a mindfulness for what the other one wanted and a mindfulness for what the other one was needing. And so we found this, like, and it was there was such a great ebb and flow where it's like, I'm going to do this. Do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And I'm like, no, I'm going to do that instead. Okay, I'm going to go do this. See you later. Then we get back together and we're going to do these things together. And it's like, well, I'm going to do this or that. What do you want to do? I'm like, well, I'm going to do this time. And that's kind of how Serena and I operate a lot of the time. Like, it's how we are. Like, it was like, I need to do this right. Like, if we're hanging out and Serena gets to the point where she's like, I'm over people right now, I need to duck out of here. Like, I'm going to go. Do you want to come with or do you want to stay? Like, that's easily a conversation that would be part of our, like, spending time together. And it's not like, and the key thing here is I'm overwhelmed with this. I need to be in a space of peace right now. Not, I don't want to spend time with you. It's, here's what I need right now. Here's what you need right now. How do we figure this out so we both get what we need? Or we get our needs compromised as least as possible in the situation.
And the important thing to realize with that is, if in those situations one person compromises beyond what they have the capacity for, like if they know this is what, like in the situation you were explaining, our friend knew he needed, like he knew he was done. Had he had stayed, I'm sure like they would have been fine, just, catching in between, in between rides and stuff.
Yeah.
But there probably would have been some sort of energy or something. Like,
oh yeah,
there would have been an exhaustion at the very least. Like,
and he's the king of sarcasm anyway, but that sarcasm would have started to have a little bit of an edge. Like, and that, like, you can feel the difference between, like, and we banter all the time and we're like, da, 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 da. But the second, like, he's not in a good space. And I'm like, and also I wouldn't want him to not be in a good space. I don't want you to compromise your needs. Like, that's not fun for me. I want us to both enjoy this. And actually, it was really fun being in one of these. It was the first time I'd ever been in one of those theme parks by myself, where I didn't have to think about anybody else or anything else. I still got to have my fun with my friend, and like it was good to do it with somebody. And I got some time to just, like, I could ride a stupid roller coaster I really liked 4 or 5 times, and nobody, like, it didn't matter to anyone else because it was just me doing it. Like, it was fun as well. And I think there was a part of me initially where I was a little bit like, oh, it's like fun to do this with people. But it's like, okay, so, and that was where I was like, so what do I want to do? Like, is it better for me to go get rest as well? Because I'm a little tired. Rest would be helpful. No, I actually think it would be better for me to stay by myself and enjoy this. And I absolutely wouldn't want him to stay just to hang out with me if it was going to compromise him. So I definitely don't want that. And I think that's the thing, is that sometimes it's taking that time to kind of figure those options through. Like, in an ideal world, it would have been like, yeah, I was with somebody who would do all the wild rides with me and we would have fun and spend all day together. That might have been my ideal, but in actual fact, it kind of was cool. Like, I got to experience something I never experienced before, and it was fun. It was a kind of best of both worlds kind of thing. And I never would have got to experience that had I got what I had ideally wanted. And that blend of both actually ended up creating something that was pretty cool. So, yeah. So that no more desperately trying to create, please.
Yeah, I'm hoping I learned my lesson.
And I say that in jest because, like, we both are students of this work as much as we are teachers of it. And, like, the amount of times that we'll come away and be like, okay, what can we learn from that situation then? Because like, we're human, life be lifing. It's one of those things. And it's like, okay, so how do we figure out a way of doing this better going forward? And this is just another one of those moments where and Serena came with half of the things, and then I maybe filled in a few of the gaps, and she was like, oh, well, shit. Okay,
that happens quite often.
I see those things. Anything else you want to add before we finish up?
I'm good.
No, okay, right. Well, we are done creating this episode. We will be back next week with a new one. Between now and then, remember to stay safe. Oh, first of all, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're on the audio recording, and thank you for watching if you're watching on the video. We'll be back next week. Between now and then, remember to stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today.
If you like what you heard,
and would like to see some of Serena's awesome facial expressions,
check out the video podcast on YouTube.
And remember, the creator approach comes from desire, not desperation.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.